Hey everybody, so this is Justin, the captain speaking. We're on a flight over to the Phoenix area from Las Vegas or Sandy Valley, that's where I keep my airplane, Sandy Valley Airpark there, on over to the Phoenix area and a little airport, a little air park over there called, let's take a peek here, called Stellar Airpark. It's south of the Phoenix Airport there, Phoenix International Airport there, and that's what we're going on over there today. Going to go over there and meet some friends and some clients for a little meetup. Individuals are from the Midwest, and I haven't seen them for a while, and so this is my opportunity to go see them. They made the trek down here to the southwest here, and well, this is my opportunity to go see them. Estimated flight time here from the Las Vegas area, 1 hour and 49 minutes. And you know what? I'm like, otherwise it was going to be 9 hours of driving for them to come to Vegas and then back. Come on. Like, what's the point? And so I'm like, you know what? Have airplane, we'll fly. And legitimate business expense here, because like I said, I haven't met with them, and both of them are clients. And so this is my opportunity to go flying. And so that's what's happening here. Currently on autopilot right now. So we're trying to set up the camera here. It's working out just fine here. And I'm quite happy with it. Got set up with the camera here. You can see my hands. Yeah. And so I'm kind of excited. And we're here in the Cardinal today. You can hear the air traffic controller there. That's what you're listening to is LA Center. And currently flying at 9,500 feet. We're on a VFR flight plan, and so truly just on our own nav, doing what we want to here. And that's what's happening here. So that's the excitingness there. A little turn. There's a warning area coming up here that I don't have to stay out of, but you know what? It's just better for me to not deal with it. So I'll make a little turn here. But yeah, guys, I haven't made a video in a while, and this is my opportunity to make a video, and so I'm kind of excited about it. So it's exciting. Currently, I don't know if you can look out. Yeah, we can't. You guys can't see anything there. We're right above the Laughlin Bullhead City area is where we are. There's no we, there's just me today, which is fine. And so, yeah. A little podunk town that I'm actually above is called Sun Valley. There's a little airport down there called Sun Valley, which is south of the Laughlin area. And some people have heard about Laughlin, and it's actually warmer than Vegas down here. Laughlin is even more south, and it's a little lower, and they get even warmer, by about 5 to 10 degrees, and I'm like, holy cow, it gets even warmer. But a lot of people go to Laughlin here. It's an exciting little shop here. Yeah, so that's what's happening today, good people. It's really flying along, and figured I bring you along on the exciting flight today. I've had all of this equipment in my airplane here for a while, and if you look on the YouTube channel, there's other videos on here, and it's like, dude, that's like 3 years ago. Yeah, I know. It's been that long ago. So we might as well get a little introduction of the airplane, shall we, huh? Since some of you guys are new to the Captain's Domain YouTube channel, it just had a branding change recently. It used to be Aviation and Adventures, and now it's Captain's Domain, and it's not just about aviation, but it's about adventures that I take, people that I meet. So my vision here is to grow the brand, not just about aviation, but just the raw exploration of this wonderful world we're in, and raw just communication and raw adventures and exploration and meeting with people, and sometimes just some well-being stuff. And if you've seen some of that stuff on there about, truly, I do care about you. All humans on this planet, we're all humans, and so I like to acknowledge every single person. And you know what? We're all doing the best we can. We're all doing it at the speed we can do it. And you know what? That's all we can do. Sometimes time is tough. Sometimes our times are really nice. And we're all doing what we can do at the speed we can do it. And I like to tell people, just because the neighbor next to you is doing it faster than you are, doesn't mean that you're falling behind. It just means that they're doing what they do and their priorities. And you know what? You're doing what you can with your priorities. It's all about what your priorities are. And so I like to be upfront with people that say, hey, I might be able to do this stuff, but you're doing the stuff you want to do. And you know what? We all have that right in this planet, right? It's a wonderful, wonderful planet that we live in, and here I am showing you the wonderful beauty of flight there today. So that's the excitingness, but that's a little introduction of Captain's Domain YouTube channel, Captain's Domain brand, and of course, down on the bottom, of course, here's the idea. Go ahead and click that subscribe button there on the bottom. That helps me out. And click that like button. Maybe add a comment. Hey, talk about the airplane. Ask me a question. Okay? Ask me a question about the airplane, about the flight. Just true, raw. Hey, I don't like this because that's fine. That's okay. You know what? That's okay. I want to hear more about it. So add comments. Subscribe to the channel. Like the channel. It's really important for me to grow this channel. I want to give back to the community, and truly, yeah, I'm up here by myself, but you know what? I have all of you watching me right now, and I'm so ecstatic that truly you guys are joining me today, and or of course whenever you want to, so it's not necessarily today, but whenever you want to. If this is 5 years, 10 years from now, and you're watching the video and going, oh yeah, you know what? That's really cool. I'm happy that you're here, but click subscribe, okay? All right. So, airplane tour. This is a 1972 Cessna Cardinal RG. Cessna made the Cardinal back in 1968. Not this particular model, but they made Cardinals. They started making Cardinals back in 1968. The idea of the Cardinal was to replace the wonderful Skyhawk. The Skyhawk, and of course anybody in aviation be like, oh, I spent many, many of hours in a Skyhawk. 172. Okay, and Cessna's idea is they wanted to replace that aircraft, and they made the Cardinal. Well, in 1968, their design wasn't necessarily the most hardest hitting or liked flavor of the aircraft, and so it didn't catch on like they were hoping. And so consequently, guess what? They kept on making the Cardinal, but the 172 just kept on growing. It is what it is. So 177, that's what this is, 177RG, Cardinal, 177RG. 1968, after that, they decided to put a bigger engine on it. They made a retractable gear. They made an A model. They made a B model. They made the RG model, which is that's what this is called, is a retractable gear. The gear on the airplane actually retracts and comes down. So on takeoff, I bring up the gear. Before landing, we bring down the gear. It's not hard. But this particular airplane, made in 1972, it is green. If you notice, it has a wonderful, wonderful green color. Some people don't enjoy the green. I like green, so there, man. But this airplane is green. I love the green interior, and then the green exterior. It's a green and white airplane. And it is called Oscar. And if you notice, we have Oscar, the Grouch up there. And I believe it's probably a trademark of Sesame Street. But however, I'm not making any kind of royalties or anything like that on there. However, I call the airplane Oscar. He's only happy when he's flying, and I don't blame him. And so that's the excitingness with Oscar. That's what this airplane is called, is Oscar. Airplane has a 200 horsepower, 4-cylinder Lycoming engine. It is horizontally opposed, which means the pistons go back and forth like this. 4-cylinder, 200 horsepower. It is normally aspirated, which means it doesn't have a turbo. It's not turbocharged at all. It's normally aspirated, which means it breathes the same air that we do. It sucks in the air, same pressure that we do. which means that if the human can't go up there, the airplane's going to have problems getting up there. And so we're kind of stuck. This airplane's kind of stuck below 15,000 feet above sea level, and that's okay. When you get above that, truly the engine's like, I can't breathe, and there's just not enough air molecules. So, like I said, about 15,000 feet. This airplane operates great at between 8,000 and about 11,000 feet. Currently at 9,500 feet. Airplane works great. It sips about 8.5 gallons an hour, and we're 154 nautical miles an hour of airspeed. And that equals up to about 176 miles an hour. So that actually works out really well, so 176 miles an hour. Right now, of course, the ground speed's 125 because we got a gnarly headwind, or headwind. But there's some math calculations there. But I do plan about 141 knots is the whole idea. And so that's the idea. You know what? I think I did that math wrong, actually. The true airspeed currently is in miles per hour, so 150 miles per hour. And so calculating back out 141 knots. So let me rephrase that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's like it says right there, stupid Justin. Oh my gosh. It says MPG. That number and that number is MPG. So yes, true airspeed, 151 miles per hour. Converting to knots, 141, 140 nautical miles per hour. Okay? Just did that wrong. Holy cow, Justin. And then we'll talk about this number right here. That number right there is our ground speed. That's in knots, so about 131 knots. Talking about that number right there, that's our ground speed. Down here is our wind speed. So there's a crosswind of 32 knots from our left side. And so that's why we're kind of bucking a headwind right now. Okay, so that's how fast this airplane can go. That's what kind of engine I have on this airplane. Engine's a wonderful engine, then it's got a constant speed propeller on it. And what that means is the actual, instead of, the blades of course go around, but the blades actually turn based on a governor, a prop governor that shoves oil in there, and it actually changes the pitch of the prop. And so it's got a constant speed propeller, and I can explain that in detail. And by the way, everybody, I'm a CFII, Certified Flight Instructor Instrument. And so in theory, I should know all of this stuff because the FAA says anyway that I can teach people how to fly airplanes. And I can teach people how to fly airplanes in the clouds. I can teach people how to fly airplanes under instrument flight rules. And so that's one of my certifications there. I'm also a multi-engine pilot, multi-engine commercial instrument pilot. So I can fly multi-engine airplanes. I got about 1,800 hours of total time. And yeah, I've been flying it since about 2017. There's my kind of history in a kind of a backwards kind of way. And here I am right there. That's kind of fun. So that's excitingness. But that's the airspeed. That's how fast we can go in this airplane. Fuel burn, like I said, about 8.5 gallons an hour. I plan on consistently 10. So then at that point, math is a lot easier to deal with. Be like, hey, I'm going to go 2 hours. How many gallons of fuel do I need? 20 gallons. Oh, okay, simple math compared to, well, 8.5 times 20 is, yeah, how about I just say 20? Because I can guarantee you we'll get there with 20 gallons of fuel. If I say, well, I think it's 12 because, you know, I can't do math in my head, well, guess what? I can tell you where the divot's going to be, and that's not cool. So I plan on 10 gallons an hour, and that is 100 low lead fuel, so 100 octane fuel. There's a little bit of lead in it, too. It's kind of exciting. So that's the funness there. What else can I tell you about this airplane? Like I said, retractable gears. It's got little itty-bitty tires on it. It's got about 6-inch tires. That's all it has. And they're kind of narrow, and so not a whole lot of off-field landings. It's not really designed for it. Now, don't get me wrong. I do enjoy the off-field, off hard surface landings and takeoffs. So I enjoy taking off on dirt, and I enjoy taking off on grass. But when it gets a little soft, not so much. And so, because it just digs in, and it just turns into some problems. But yeah, it's got little ebony tires, and that's okay. It's got these big doors, really big doors, and that's one thing I love about the Cardinal. If you've ever been in these smaller airplanes, they're kind of difficult to get in and out, particularly like a 172 or a 182. You got to crawl up and fit just perfectly in there. My gosh, I'm 300 pounds, 6'5", okay? But it's a pain in the butt to get in some of these aircraft, okay? Well, guess what? In the Cardinal, it's really easy to get in the Cardinal. And so it's my opportunity, truly. I open up the door, I duck the head in, and I sit down, and the problem's solved. And that's one thing I really, really love about the Cardinal. It's super easy to get into. The doors are really easy to get in, are really easy to open. The doors are a little wind sails. Let's just say that. And unfortunately, that turns into some problems. So I got to be very careful with the doors when I open. Particularly, let's say I park against the wind, so the wind's coming from the back. I got to make sure that it's not too strong a winds, because the wind can like rip off the doors. It's not cool. But otherwise, that's the wind. That's the doors. If you all know, so some of you non-pilots, you're like, dude, stay off your iPad. I mean, or you're not supposed to text while you're driving. Yeah. However, the FAA allows me to use this instrument in flight, my iPad, because all of my charting is on there. Everything I do is on my iPad for my charting, my flight planning, situational awareness. Everything is right there. I have it on my iPad. I have it on my phone. So before I even go out to the airplane, I put all my sectional charts, all of my up-to-date sectional charts on my phone is what I do. And then on my iPad, too, has that same concept. And so that's how I deal with that. I put all of that stuff. Years ago, pilots had to bring bags of paper. This is a paperless cockpit. And on my iPad, I can truly see other aircraft. So let's see what I can do here. I did something. Okay. On my iPad, I can actually see other traffic on here. You probably can't see my finger very well, but I can see other traffic out here, and it's really nice to be able to see the other traffic, to be able to see other airplanes. I can't see them outside, okay? I mean, there's an airplane that's about 9 miles from me. I can't see that. And the iPad connects to this instrument up here. And this instrument right here is a navigator. It's also a transponder. And that particular transponder allows me to broadcast. There's a little alert. Let me deal with that. It allows me to broadcast out my position using this technology called ADS-B. And also, it receives ADS-B. And a good amount of airplanes out there are broadcasting ADS-B data. And what ADS-B does is it has a GPS receiver. It takes that GPS data and then it broadcasts it on the ADS-B out transmitter. And then an aircraft like mine can pick up that ADS-B in, and at that point, guess what? I then can find out where that aircraft is. And I think it makes the situational awareness and just raw aviation safety so much better. Some people have opinions about it, and I understand. There is a whole concept that Big Brother's watching, and if you do something that they don't like, they'll send you they're there to penalize you. Yeah, and I understand that. You know, could you imagine driving a car and the police could see you doing whatever you are doing at any given time and the speed you're doing it and wherever you are? Yeah, I can see how privacy concerns turns into play. you know, the FAA has the ability to do that with ADS-B data, but of course, here's this whole question. If you play by the rules, are you breaking any? And so some people have great opinions about it. Oh, and I would love to hear about your opinions down in the comments below. Yeah. Put the comments down below. Tell me how you feel about ADS-B. I would love to hear how you feel about ADS-B because it's important. I like to know how you feel about things. And, you know, again, your well-being matters to me. And so how you feel about ADS-B, tell me more. I would like to start a discussion. And you know what? If you actually have a quality discussion, and if you wanted to, I would love to bring you on the show here, and let's have a discussion about ADS-B. I would love to discuss how ADS-B affects your life, positive or negative. I would love to hear your stories. I think it's really, really important that we share our stories. We've done this for years. You know, for millions of years, humans have what? Shared our stories. Let's all surround around the campfire and share Grandpa's wisdom, right? And so I would love to hear your story. ADS-B data. So I can see other airplanes around here, and that makes this a lot, like I said, a lot more situational awareness. And like I said, I can also see on here where I am. And that right there helps out with knowing where I am, how far I am away from things. So I can immediately look at my thing and go, hey, I'm 8 miles from Lake Havasu. You know, things like that. And that's what I'm looking over here on the far left is Lake Havasu. I can see all of that stuff, and that right there is something that our generations of pilots for years never had. They just had to look outside. Yeah, you could do that during the day, but at nighttime, not so much. And if you're in the clouds, not so much. You got to do a lot of time things and a lot of time calculations, using clocks, using all of these things, and it's here, truly, we look at the thing and the GPS, and the GPS tells us where we are. The GPS puts a little dot on the map, and that's how we get navigation. And all of that information comes from this little box right here, and that's called the navigator. Okay, some people, the slang term is, well, that's a GPS. No, GPS is just a receiver. If you need to know where you are according to, like on a map, that is a navigator. Navigator takes maps that it has downloaded, and then overlays where you are based on GPS data. GPS is not two-way. It is not for tracking. You need some sort of conductivity like cellular or Starlink or some sort of conductivity, Wi-Fi, to have that two-way communication. GPS does not broadcast. You need something to broadcast. Like an airplane, we use ADS-B. But GPS itself is not a broadcasting thing. But anyway, that right there is the Garmin navigator. It is a instrument-rated navigator. And of course, that adds zeros to the price of that unit. You're like, oh yeah, that only looks like maybe $1,000 unit. That's fancy, right? Oh no. You're more than welcome to go look at that. And I believe that number was a Garmin 375. That's like I said, a navigator, along with a transponder, along with ADS-B in, along with ADS-B out, and the ability for me to have a data link between my iPad and that. I can send it flight plans. And that right there is a huge deal. So my process here is I make my flight plan on my phone, and then at that point, like when I'm at home or in somewhere where it's quiet, right, where I can think, I can make my flight plan, do my weather planning, all of that jazz, my flight planning, my weather planning, my flight planning, make my flight plan. Then I can put it all on my phone, send it to the flights area in ForeFlight, and then I get in the airplane, open up ForeFlight on my iPad, and then open up that flight on here, and my entire flight plan is all laid out on my iPad. I don't have to sit there and twist knobs and type touch buttons and all of that jazz. Truly, it's all planned here. And what I can do here is I can take this and then push it to the navigator. And guess what? Immediately, the navigator has my flight plan that I planned when I didn't have my pilot brain going on. Truly, a properly planned and executed flight plan. I think it's a safer way to go. The less I have to think in this airplane, the better. Truly, the less drama, the less panic. truly, the less crisis, the better. Yes, I am here to deal with the crisis. Hopefully we don't have one, but the pilot deals with the crisis. Yes, in a normal flight, I hope this is going to be an uneventful flight. It won't be exciting because of all the planning we put together on here. The practice that I've done, the procedures that I know, okay? The checklist that I have, and that's what that book up there is my checklist book. And so I want this flight to be as uneventful as possible. I don't want to be figuring things out up here in the air. It's not something I want to do. And so that's one thing that that ForeFlight allows me to do, along with the Garmin interaction here. I love the way that Garmin works, that I can send it flight plans. Some people have opinions about other instruments, and that's fine. You can have your opinions, whatever you like. Again, that's your opinion. I choose to use Garmin, okay? And like I said, you can have your opinion. Then we'll talk about some other instruments in this airplane. These two instruments up here, these are called the Garmin G5s. Those are flight instruments, okay? This is navigation. Okay? These are flight instruments, or called primary flight displays. Okay? The top one is my primary flight display. Over on the left is my airspeed. The center is my attitude indicator. On the right is my altitude. And on this, I can see my airspeed like this pretty quickly. I can see my attitude indicator. If I'm left, right, if I'm climbing, descending, or I'm banking left, banking right, climbing and descending. On the right is my altitude, and I can see plainly what my altitude is. I have a backup altimeter over here too. It uses the same source of air, and that's fine, but I have one here, and all of that information is on here. Some other instruments, some other stuff that's on the screen, it's this little ball here, and what that little ball is for, it's a turn, your inclometer, so it tells you if you're coordinated in flight. So imagine you're looking from the back of the airplane, and if you're not coordinated, the airplane can look like this or this, and I'll show you an example by using my rudders. If I push really hard on one of my rudders, you can see that ball move way over, and you can see how everything's all messed up, right? What I use that ball for, and we'll center it up here, is I want to know if I'm coordinated. That ball should stay coordinated in flight. We should always be in coordinated flight. It's not like you're in a car where you get pushed to the left or the right. That's kind of what that ball is doing. If you feel like something's pushing on you, that ball's not center. And that term is called flying by the seat of your pants. You feel push or pressure on your butt per se, that is not coordinated flight, left or right. In the airplane, when we fly, you can see here, the water actually changes, right? If we're uncoordinated. But if we are coordinated, that water should stay level. And that's one thing that's really interesting with this. Things don't tip over when you're in a turn. Have fun. So, inclometer, okay. Then we have over on the right, we have a vertical speed indicator. That tells you how fast you're going up and down. That is the backup instrument right here. And in an actuality, I think this is the primary, and that's backup. And there's terms there. Okay? And what this will tell us is how fast, a rate of our climb. Like in this case right now, in theory, we're climbing at about 100 feet per minute. And this is barely showing it. But this will show it way over on the right. I'm going to cover up the altimeter. But there's a little itty-bitty, like ruler graduation scale right here. And that is the vertical speed. So there's that. And then in the center here, or not in the center, but up in the top center, this is mimicking this instrument. And let's focus on here for a second. What this is our heading indicator. Okay? And what that is, another term is directional gyro, or HSI. And we'll just use a heading indicator. That is what direction the airplane is pointing. So it'll be, we're pointing a certain magnetic direction. And that's what that thing is called, a heading indicator. And that number up here is representing that number down there. That's how that works. Okay? So that's a heading indicator. Like I said, airspeed. attitude indicator, altimeter, the vertical speed over on the right, and then up at the top is the HSI. There's some other information on here. This whole top row, these green. Okay, so airspeed over there, altimeter, attitude indicator, the heading indicator up there at the top, and then the vertical speed over on the right. Okay, up on the top, you see these green little text up here. That has to do with the autopilot. That connects to the autopilot. Okay. This device right here is the Garmin GFC 500 autopilot. And what that does is that device allows me to be completely hands-off. And what this device is told is either from a navigator or it is told by the heading indicator, little heading bug. And that's what this little blue thing here is that's how you tell it. So the navigator tells the autopilot to follow something. And over on the right is the altitude control, the vertical speed control. And this area over here controls what altitude it's going to be set for or to stop at, okay? And we can go up and down with different things. We can go up and down with vertical speed. We can go up and down with air speed. We can go up and down with a mode set from our navigator called VNav, okay? And that is this area of the autopilot. Okay, the center area is how we turn it off and on. AP, what the AP does is that's what turns on the autopilot, what turns it off. And if you notice, there's a white light there. There's a little white light here under FD. FD is this thing called flight director. The flight director is these little bars right here. We can fly this airplane without the autopilot, but with a flight director. And what a flight director is it physically tells you what to do. And that actually is what's telling the autopilot what to do. And so it shows on here what we need to do to get to where we want to be based on all the navigator or the heading bug. So let's say we wanted to follow a line going to the north, but we're flying east. Well, if we told the aircraft that we wanted to go to the north, this little heading, this flight director would tell us, hey, you got to turn to get there. And that's what FD does on the autopilot. Okay. Over on the right, we have LVL and YD. LVL is level. So let's say you're not on the autopilot, but let's say I'm teaching a pilot or a potential pilot, or a student pilot, about something in the aircraft, and well, we just need a break from flying. What I love about level is I can just hit that button and the aircraft goes wings level immediately. Okay? Accidentally go in the clouds or just truly just gets discombobulated. You hit that level, that button, and whatever altitude you're at and whatever heading you're at, it wings level, done. Wings level. So airplanes like this, going like this, I can press wings level, bring up the nose, level off the aircraft, and it works very well. It's an immediate, hey, just stop being unusual. Go back to a usual flight. That is our GFC, a 500 Garmin autopilot. I got that installed a couple of years ago. I had many of hours in this airplane without an autopilot. And you know what? That was the best thing I could have possibly ever done, is fly this airplane without an autopilot. And I have flown this airplane, I think it was like 800 hours without an autopilot. And truly, in the clouds at nighttime, I felt comfortable flying this airplane in the clouds, doing approaches at nighttime without an autopilot. It could definitely do that. And yes, it takes a special kind of pilot that has the skills, the knowledge, the proficiency, the currency to be able to do that, yes. But since I fly a little bit less, I realized that I did need an autopilot. And it's a nice little, hey, you know what? I don't have to completely be face down, heads down all the time. And that's one thing I love about the autopilot, and that's one thing that we're using today. So I can explain this video, I can explain all of this stuff while we're flying. And so periodically I'm looking at my chart going, hey, what do I have to do this, that, or another thing? Guess what? I can just make an adjustment. I can turn this knob and I can change my heading, and then I can push heading, and the airplane's going to turn for me automatically, and it's going to stop where I tell it. And that's what's really cool with an autopilot. And truly, that's one thing I love about this airplane, is that autopilot. All right, so these two little instruments right here, this right here and this right here, this whole unit is called a radio. Okay, there's two different sides. The left side is the comm side, and the right side is the nav side. Let's talk about the comm side for a bit. What you're hearing is communication. What you're hearing is this frequency, and this is in megahertz. This side, we turn these knobs, and that we tune to a frequency. So let's go do that for an example. If we turn this knob, that's going to be horrible. You can't even see that, can you? Okay, that's okay. This knob right here allows us to tune into a certain frequency. And once we put it into a frequency, it'll go in this area. And I don't think you can see it very well on there. I'm sorry. But what happens here is we set the frequency here, and then we push this white button, and it goes over here. And this area is what we're using. And that's what we're listening to, is that. So this is the comm side. This is the nav side. And this nav side, this is for navigational purposes. There is navigational aids on the Earth all over the planet, and they're broadcasting at a certain frequency. And we can tune into them, and we can use them for navigational purposes. Okay? I have another radio. It's the same radio. But what's beautiful is that sometimes you need to listen to two frequencies. Or you want to have one frequency loaded, and then you want to swap over to the other frequency. Okay? You want two radios. And sometimes you want to be listening to both radios and have the ability to broadcast on either one of them. And when you get into busier airspaces, it's important to do that. And then, of course, being able to have a frequency on the right side and then putting it over the left. Busier airports, that is so important to be able to have 4 frequencies loaded and to be able to swap from one frequency to another one, to another one, to another one. Again, it's all about what? Planning. A little bit of planning saves so much frustration. So these are called radios. Okay, these little knobs right here, this is the volume. Okay, that's the volume for this one. We can also hear the nav radio, that's what this is for. Okay, them are radios. This area up in the top, that's my intercom system. Okay, and that's actually how we switch between what radio we're listening to. So we can see COM 1 and COM 2. Okay, on the bottom is what we're transmitting on. So we can actually transmit on COM 1 or COM 2. This is COM 1, this radio is COM 1, this radio is COM 2. Okay, for our purposes today, we're just listening to COM 2. Okay, there's a bunch of other things here, but one thing I love about that intercom is it connects to my iPad. So I get alerts on my iPad. So I'll get traffic alerts. It'll tell me when I'm getting close to a runway. It'll tell me when I'm getting on a runway. We're like, hey, entering runway 15. Oh, okay, I better pay attention, right? It's that situational awareness. Okay, the iPad will do all of that. That connects to here, and then this connects to my headset. And that is what you're listening to, is that concept. And that's what everybody else in the airplane is listening to, is the intercom. Okay, and I can change the different volumes. Also, another thing I could do is I have that connected to this device up here. Okay, you don't hear it because then I get, it's copyrighted music, and I don't want to play it on YouTube. However, when I go flying, I like to have music. And what this little device is, this is the Garmin GDL51 Sirius XM radio and weather downlink. What this little device does is it allows me to get music from Sirius XM anywhere, at least in the North America. Also, I believe it does ADS-B data in, so I can get other aircraft information. Okay? It also does this thing called a weather downlink. So this device connects to my iPad. I can actually take information that's fed from SiriusXM and bring it and show it on my iPad nationwide. And this is something, I don't use it a lot in the Pacific Southwest here. However, I can look at my iPad, and I don't know, yeah, you can see it right there. Okay, this is a bunch of precipitation up by Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, okay? I can see that in flight, and it's not real time, but guess what? I am 1,000 miles away from it, 1,200 miles away from it, and because of SiriusXM, I can see what's happening that far away, and it's pretty real time. In theory, it's about 10 minutes. I think it's a lot faster than that, and of course, if I got a SiriusXM person, they would argue. It'd be like, it's like 2 minutes. That is huge. Knowing when things refresh, what a thunderstorm is doing. SiriusXM and adding that into situational awareness has made me such a better pilot to know what I'm going to do before I get to it. And it's such a huge deal to be able to look at my screen and go, let's say I'm flying up there. There's some red there. Let's not go in there. Or there's some yellow here. Let's not go in there. Or there's a line and it's moving across the line, and that's what I can see here. Let's not intercept that storm. Let's plan on deviating around that storm or that whatever, that precipitation. And with SiriusXM, I can do that with radar. Also, of course, I get a bunch of aviation like AirMits and SIGMETs, and it also shows nationwide all of the weather, like the temperatures. Like I can see nationwide what the temperature here is in Flint, Michigan. Right now, the temperature is 34 degrees, the dew point's 18 Fahrenheit. Okay, and that was updated 40 minutes ago. Okay, that's a huge deal. Okay, and that information came from ADSV. But that is something that I love to be able to get, and that is help with SiriusXM, and then of course ADSV. But this is something that truly that I love about SiriusXM is that I have so much situational awareness. I can make decisions that affect safety. I can make decisions that affect my crew. I can make decisions that affect my passengers so much sooner. And that is because of the Garmin GDL51 along with the audio. And that's one thing I love is being able to have the entire gamut of SiriusXM, and I don't have to mess with it. Yes, can I play Spotify from my iPad? Yeah, oh yeah, I could. Apple Music, oh yeah, I could. But you know what? I turn on the airplane, this works. I don't have to mess with it. I have music immediately. And that is one thing I love. I can have the audio go to me. I can have the audio go to the passenger. I can have the audio go to the whole entire aircraft. And that is such a huge deal. And that is because of the wonderful PSI Engineering intercom. 2 Bluetooth sources. So I can take that wired, the iPad's Bluetooth, and then my phone can be Bluetooth too. I use that. I don't use it in the air because you're not supposed to use it in the air. But let's say I'm in the aircraft and I need to pick up I want to do a phone call. I'm not in the air, don't have the airplane on, okay? I can use the intercom and I can actually make a phone call on my iPhone. And it connects right there, and it has wonderful Bluetooth audio. So I can have the Bluetooth connected there. I can have the iPad connected there. I can have the Garmin connected there, and all on there. And also, it's stereo. This PSI Engineering intercom does stereo also. The audio quality is utterly amazing, and that's one thing I love about that. I looked at the Garmin, and the Garmin, unfortunately, did not have the audio quality and the ability to have so many different sources. It just didn't. I would have loved to get the Garmin, but it just didn't have that need. And this was right here, a huge deal. Also, it has a USB-C power supply in here. A couple of some of the other cool features in there is that in most intercoms, the audio comes from both ears, right? Let's picture my head right here. The audio from either radio comes from both ears. With the intelligent audio, tele-audio feature in the PSI intercom, I can have one radio be the right ear and the other radio be the left ear. So I now know what radio is doing what, because the right one is this radio, the left one is this one, and that right there has substantial benefits. So now at this point, I don't have to hear both of them in my brain. It's like, no, the left one is, let's say, the ground frequency. The right one is an approach frequency. And yes, I need to monitor them, but I can say that right ear, I don't need to worry about that one so much. But the left one is important, and that is because of that tele-audio service that they offer there. Feature. It's not a service, it's a feature. How about that? So that is the wonderful intercom, and I love that. So we went to the intercom. So we talked about that whole stack. We've got a bunch of USB ports over here. USB-B, USB ports. All the ones on the outside are powered. The one on the inside actually allows me to download information from this instrument, and that's how this is connected. This is connected to here. What this device does is the engine monitor. Okay, it is a engine systems indicator. ESI, I think, is what it's called. But this company is called the PSI, EI International. Okay, and this is the model number of CGR-30P. And this engine monitor monitors my fuel flow. It monitors my cylinder heads, my exhaust gas temperatures, my oil pressure, my oil temperature, manifold pressure, RPMs, volts, amps. It has my tachometer in there, my fuel pressure. It keeps track of how many gallons I have left in the tank. If I tell it, it'd be like, hey, I just filled up. I have 50 gallons left. And because it knows how many gallons I'm currently using, it takes away from that. It's called a fuel totalizer. Okay? All of that is because of that instrument. And that actually downloads all that data to it. So I can take all of these values, and then I can download them on a flash drive using that centerpiece. That's how that works. And it's wonderful. So that's that engine instrument. These right here are navigational CDIs. They actually pair with the navigator here, and that's how I know where that ground station is. So I tune into a ground station, and then this device, this instrument right here, will tell you what direction it is. That right there is a whole lesson of itself, how that works. So I'm just going to briefly say, these connect to here. They're called CDIs, course deviation indicators. That's what they work. Okay. We talked about a lot of these already. Okay. Airspeed indicator over on the left, altimeter over on the right. Turn coordinator, that's what this little airplane is. If my wings, we'll actually see that here, turn coordinator. And one thing I love about this is it tells you we can use it to time turns, okay? If we put, right here is the airplane. If we put that wing down here, down here, and we stay in that bank, that type of turn, for 2 minutes, we'll do a 360-degree turn. If you do it for a minute, that is a 180-degree turn. And that is called the turn coordinator. For instrument flying, it's very important. 9, 8, 7, 6, 8, 7, 6 minutes. 6 minutes. I'm doing a little calculation because I got to descend here in a little bit. So 6 minutes. So we're going to go here. On my iPad, this is another thing I love to do, is that I put on my iPad when I need to do something. So on my iPad, we're currently up here. That's the red line right here. At that point, I need to start my descent. And I calculated all that right on the iPad. I went, hey, I need so many minutes to get down. Oh, let's take that calculation, and we'll draw a line. I call these also decision points. So let's say I'm approaching some weather system, and I don't necessarily know what my decision is going to be, to either go around or whatever. I can put a line and be like, at this point, I'm going to make a decision. Either proceed, land, or go around or make another decision at that point. And so then at that point, I don't forget about it and get myself into, oh, that's uncomfortable. No, truly be like, hey, this is my point. And that's what I love about the ForeFlight too. Okay, so we talked about the instrument and the airspeed instrument. Talked about the altimeter. We talked about the turn coordinator, and we talked about the vertical speed indicator. You can't see it, but underneath my iPad here, there is some fuel gauges. Them are legitimate fuel gauges from 1972. Right here, this is the trim, okay? It's a secondary flight control, and what this does is it makes it so the most simplest way I can explain it is instead of holding, let's say, we are trying to do a climb and we're holding back the yoke a bunch, we can use this to alleviate that pressure so that at that point we can actually let go of the yoke but maintain a certain pitch. It's that whole aspect. Some people call it a poor man's autopilot. No, truly, all it does is it makes it so we don't have to hold the yoke is the whole concept. And that's called the trim, okay? Over on the left, we have some lights here, okay? That right there is our gear up light, and then down at the bottom is our gear down light. Okay, and these indications tell us if our gear is up or down. They're like, well, all right, Captain, how do you tell it, how do you put the gear down, put the gear up? That's that lever right here. That lever is up for gear up, and that lever is gear down for gear down. And if you notice, gear down, I hold it down until the light turns on. Gear up, I hold it on until the light turns on. The upper one, that's how that process works. Okay, and that is the gear operation lever. Okay, right here. Right here. This is the throttle. Okay, this opens and closes the throttle. Allows it to have more air and more fuel. Okay, really it's air. It opens the throttle or closes the throttle. Right now, the throttle is wide open to allow as much air in there as possible. Right next to it is our prop control, and what this does is this is how we set the speed of the propeller. And like I said, the way that constant speed propeller works is a whole other lesson. However, that is the prop governor. That's what tells us. That's how we control the speed of the propeller. And the way we know where that speed is it's this value right here. 32.5 for Zopop. Okay, that's that number right there. And that is controlled right here. Okay. Okay. This right here is our mixture. This right here controls our fuel flow. So here is how we can give it more fuel or less fuel based on the air is the idea. If our air is, we have this amount of air, we're pushing in this much amount of fuel, it's not the proper mixture. Okay? What we want to do is bring that fuel down to match the proper mixture of fuel and air, and that's what we do here. And what's beautiful with this is there's no reason to burn this much fuel when we only have this much air. We can bring this down, and there's a peak of max performance, and that's how we control that. That's called the mixture. We pull that all the way out. What is that going to do? It's going to take away all of the fuel. Well, of course, the engine's going to fail. That right there is the mixture. Okay? These knobs over here are for the heat. The top one is the defrost. You're like, oh, it's all electronic. Nope, 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 nope. There is tubes inside of this airplane. So let's talk about this bottom one for a second, and I'll talk about the tubes in a second. On the bottom, in this airplane, around the exhaust, there's an exhaust manifold, right? Okay, around the exhaust, there's another box called the heater box, heat box. That heat box has a little flap on it. If that little flap is closed, this is pushed in, the bottom one. Okay? If I open this, it opens that up. And air from the front goes around the exhaust and goes through the tube, and that tube brings it into the cabin here, and then pushes the heat down below, okay? It's not pushing exhaust, it's just pushing hot air that was warmed by the exhaust manifold. And that's what this does. It actually moves a little door, and then it pushes it into a pipe, and that pipe brings it in here. The top one, the defrost, there is another pipe that comes up here. And so instead of being on the floor right now, so if I open that to heat, the heat goes on the floor. If I pull on the defrost, that's deviated up here, so now the heat comes from the dash. A way to defrost the window is the thought there. That is the cabin heat system. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's so primitive. Absolutely. And this is one thing I tell people, if you're going to fly, make sure you wear pants. If you have that on, that air comes out very, very warm. And so having pants is really, really important. That right there is the heating system for the aircraft. In the back, not so much. It does come back there a little bit, but not the world's best, unfortunately. So there's that. There's a little switch over here. That is our avionics master. That little switch turns on all of the electronics, is the idea. This little little gizmo right here, that is our flap control. That's what allows us to extend our flaps and brings up our flaps. That's another secondary flight control, and I can explain flaps in a different video. If someone wants to know more about this, I can explain in detail how all that concept works. But that's what that is for the flaps. There's a bunch of circuit breakers that are over on the right. I don't have to go into detail, but they're circuit breakers is what them are for. This right here is our flight time, okay, or our Hobbs meter. It's not, I wouldn't say necessarily a flight time, but it's our Hobbs meter.
All right, up to 230 and pull her back to 250 knots, frontier flight 3737.
And what that does is it keeps track. Whenever I turn on the switch, it just keeps track of the time the switch is on. And usually that works really well for flight time is the whole concept. And we all know there's opinions about the difference between flight time and Hobbs time, and yes, that right there is Hobbs time. That's all I'm going to say. That's officially Hobbs time. Tack time is the time the engine is producing thrust, okay? And that's on here, okay? You might fly for an hour. However, your tack time won't show an hour. You're like, what the heck's the deal? The idea here is when it's actually enough to produce thrust. If it's at idle, you're not producing the same amount of time as if you're at enough power to produce thrust. So there's a difference in time. In aviation, there's many different times. Hobbs time, tack time, okay? There's a whole concept with that, okay? So that is our Hobbs time. This little door right here is like a glove box. I put random cables in there for phones, charging phones and whatnot. Over on the right, that's where headsets plug in. Over on the right, there's a air vent way over on the right. That opens up a little door on the outside of the airplane and allows air to come in. Works really well. What else can I show you? Up on the top here.
11,000 to 250, 7 Bravo Delta.
Okay, this right here is our temperature probe. It truly is the most simplest little temperature probe, and what that does is it measures the temperature outside of the aircraft. It is not electronic, it's truly just very simple. Okay, this right here is our compass. Okay, a legitimate wet compass. And what that does is it tells us what direction we're pointing. Okay, we don't really fly with this. What this is truly, on the event this dies, I can use this. It's a backup instrument, and that's actually what you're supposed to set this by if you had the old style. This whole concept. That is the wet compass. It's kind of weird in the way to use it. And if you want a whole lesson on how that whole thing works, I can explain that in great detail. I'll tell you what. Okay, so that is the compass and oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Temperature probe. There's another temperature probe that actually puts a temperature on my primary flight display here. Okay. But however, this is not the same temperature up here because the exhaust comes out. So let's say this is the airplane here. The exhaust is right here on the bottom on the right of the airplane. And because the propeller pushes air around the airplane, what happens here is the exhaust comes out, and if the propeller pushes the air, it actually comes up and hits the temperature probe. And the temperature probe is on this side of the airplane. And particularly in a climb, it's horrible. Like it could be 20 degrees off. And so this one's not necessarily the most reliable. This one right here, whatever one is the lowest temperature, that's which one I use when I do icing calculations or performance calculations. Whatever the lowest one is important, okay? That's temperature. What else can I show you here? Oh, let's see here. Of course, these are the yokes, okay? There's one behind my iPad and there's one over here. They're equally connected. I'm going to start that descent down to... But now, what I'm doing is I'm starting my descent here into the Phoenix area. And so we're going to look at our checklist here. All right, so... descent. We're going to set our throttle to descent as desired, 21 to 2500, okay. Right now we're at 21 inches. Periodically, I'm going to pull this back because it's going to climb. Mixture, okay, that's set right where it needs. Flaps, we don't need any flaps in for our descent in this case, okay. Our cowl flaps are closed. The cowl flaps are down on the floor. What that does is helps with engine cooling and maintain temperature. Okay, our navigation is set. Okay, we're on nav mode. And what we're doing is we're going to a waypoint to avoid a certain area, the Phoenix area here. Okay, so that was our descent checklist, and we can see we went through each little item on the checklist here. Like I said, we're going to periodically pull back that power, so then we're not wasting too much. It'll just keep on going faster and faster. And we can see this on the airspeed here.
2502, Bravo Delta.
That it is getting up in the yellow, and that's very normal. This airplane is very, very fast and very aerodynamic, and so it wants to go fast. It's actually kind of hard to slow it down in the grand scheme of things. So we're going to start our descent in here in the Phoenix area here. Might as well get the weather here. Of course, they're not reporting weather. But the nearby is the wind 320 at 4 knots, visibility 10 miles, altimeter 29er. So we're going to set that. We'll leave it at 29er. See 30. Want to leave it at 30. Okay, that beep you heard was the autopilot saying we're 1,000 feet off. So we're like, hey, something to look into is you're within 1,000 feet of the altitude that you chose. So that's really handy. We're looking at other airplanes here, making sure we're not going to run into problems. What I'm looking for now is a frequency for to see where we are. 125. So on the chart here, we've seen that Luke approach is Air Force Base. Luke Air Force Base is 125.45.
Traffic no factor. Roger, 148. 5 Golf, are you just maneuvering that area? Cessna 7 Golf, Roger. Any further east, you'll be leaving my airspace. 148 would like to cancel IFR negative flight following.
Oh,
24 IFR cancellation received. Radar service terminated. Squawk VFR frequency approved. VFR frequency change approved. Good day, 148.
I like to at least listen. I don't need flight following.
Oscar Alpha Victor, turn 10 degrees right. At or below 5,000.
Okay, 9 miles, 9 miles northeast. Okay. Luke approach, Cardinal, 1841 Quebec, 6,500, 9 miles south, east of Buckeye.
Cardinal 1841 Quebec, Luke approach, you're coming in broken. Saber class.
VFR flight following, if I could, to the Stellar Airpark, 1841 Quebec. Now we're going to go down to 5,500.
Cardinal 41 Quebec, Roger, squawk 4324.
4324, 1841 Quebec.
Hawker Oscar Alpha Victor, descend and maintain 6,000.
That's another beep. We were approaching our 1,000 feet.
Present height for now, I have a turn here to the east in about 5 miles. Cardinal 401 Quebec, ready contact 6 miles southeast of Buckeye Municipal Airport, Luke altimeter 2997.
2997, 184 Quebec.
41 Quebec, are you descending to 5,500?
Yes, sir. 5,500, 184 Quebec.
Roger. 475, turn left heading 170, vector for Stanfield.
Say again for 475.
475, turn left heading 170, vector for Stanfield.
170, 475.
So now we're on this thing called VFR flight following, and what they're...
41 Quebec traffic, 12 o'clock, 4 miles southbound, Sears 3,700, climbing at 6,000.
Roger that, looking for traffic, 184 Quebec. We're on
Oscar Alpha Victor, turn right heading 280.
Flight following, so we've established communication with them. So on the event, they're going to give us advisories, things like that. They don't have to, but in this busy airspace, I like to.
49, out of below 5,000.
I like to have. I like them to know where we are and have communication on the event. They want to communicate with us or whatever it is, having that ability. So you'll hear me talk a lot more with them. But this is called VFR flight service, VFR flight following, or radar services is the term here.
Oscar Alpha Victor, traffic 12
An exciting mountain over on the right. We're going to go slightly left to it. Okay. I don't see no airplane. They said there was an airplane out there, but I don't see it, which is fine.
41 Quebec traffic, no factor.
Roger that, 184 Quebec.
2475 traffic, 3 o'clock, 2 miles east on Cardinal 5,500.
Looking for traffic, 2475.
All right.
Bravo above in 4.8 miles.
All of that area over there is
10 o'clock in 8 miles, same direction, indicates 6,500.
All that area over there is the Phoenix area there. I've never been to Phoenix. I have never been to Phoenix, so this is my opportunity to go to Phoenix. It's kind of exciting. My next altitude here in the next
2475, climb maintain 7,000.
6 minutes is going to be 4,400 feet. That'll be my next step down I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to load that. Not quite yet.
Go ahead with request.
Here, I'm going to put a little line so don't forget about it.
Side 1, Roger, stand by. Oscar Alpha Victor, turn 10 degrees right, contact Phoenix approach 120.
There's some mountains there, and we want to make sure we're past the mountains before we descend. And I know I use the word we, there's nobody else here. I fly this airplane with that mindset of having 900 people behind me or 200 people behind me. And so I fly this airplane the same way I would.
1 Quebec, turn right heading 120, expect to remain southeast of the mountain.
120, 1841 Quebec.
Stud 1, maintain at or above 13,500 for now. There is traffic over high key. I'll have a descent once you're west of Luke.
We can see here, I turned, and then I told it to turn, and that's how the autopilot works, truly. Hands off completely.
Stud 1, Roger, just for now remain outside of the SFO pattern.
So one of the things I'm doing here is I'm adjusting power. Since we descended, there's more air pressure. And because we have more air pressure, we were actually producing more power because of it. And so what I did was I adjusted
Cardinal
it.
41 Quebec, contact Phoenix approach 124.9, advise above your heading.
124.9er 5, 1841 Quebec.
No, 124.9.
124.9, 1841 Quebec.
Mile 4,500.
Still looking for Romeo.
Approach Cardinal 1841 Quebec, level at 5,500 on a heading of 120.
November 40 Romeo, traffic now 1 o'clock.
Traffic in sight, 40 Romeo.
40 Romeo, report cancellation of IFR in the air on this frequency, or if you want to do it on the ground, I have a phone number for you.
Full cancel right here, 40 Romeo.
40 Romeo, Airpark cancellation received, radar service terminated, block VFR frequency change approved.
Block VFR frequency approved, thanks for the help, 4 Charlie. Phoenix, standby 2131, 10,000 and X-ray.
Flight 2131, Phoenix Road, turn left heading 295, vector for your descent, maintain 8,000.
We're on 8,000, heading 295 at 2131.
Approach Cardinal 184 Quebec, level at 5,500 on a heading of 120.
Number 184 in Quebec, terrain is preventing our communication. Your radar services are terminated. Block VFR frequency change approved.
Over to VFR 184 Quebec, have a good day. All right, well, we tried, and they don't want to talk to us. It's not that they don't want to, it's that terrain. I'm below the altitudes, and of course, I need to be, and it's all good. So, we're on
321, flighting 250, join Victor 105.
We're on our own. It is what it is.
Victor 105 to 321.
320.
Track 1057, descend, maintain 5,000.
Maintain 5,000, crew track 1057.
Air 73179, maintain 7,000. Phoenix altimeter 299er.
Maintain 7,000, 2999, Aircom 3177.
And flight 2131, descend, maintain 7,000.
Sending 7,000 at 2131.
Oh, we're going to stay at this altitude until we get over this. Until we get over this mountain here. This nice little ridge here. That's what we're going to do. I tell you what. What's interesting
Are you also canceling IFR prior to Stanfield?
is the change in pressure compresses these bottles. It's quite mesmerizing. What I did was I loaded up the airport here, the Airpark, and so I can talk to other pilots that are in that particular area. Unfortunately, we have no radar services, so I got to be very diligent on other airplanes here to make sure that we're not going to collide, make sure we're going to stay out of their way and all that jazz.
Taking runway 17.
So that's what we're doing.
Total traffic, Sir 864 Sir Romeo is turning left base for 17, will be a full stop.
There we go. I always love looking down and seeing old airports. The runway's still there, but it's not on the sectional chart at all, but there's an airport down there, and
Buckeye traffic, Barney, 661.
I wonder
right crosswind, right down 117 Buckeye.
I really wonder if like people use it, but it's not on the sectional at all. I think it's interesting looking down and seeing that stuff. Wish I could show you, but oh well, it's okay. Yeah, our Stellar Airpark, that's where we're going.
Sir 864 Sir Romeo, we're going around and we're going to enter a left downwind again and 17, full stop.
That's all loaded up. Another lovely thing I love about ForeFlight is that it does this glide distance. And if there's terrain, it says, hey, you're not going to get past the terrain. And I love how once you get beyond that point, it like grows. And it's like, okay, good. At least that makes me feel better. On the event, I had to glide that I'm beyond that point. I love that feature of ForeFlight too. That glide ring, be like, hey, I want to make sure that if I have a problem, that I can still glide to an airport or something like that. And it's the glide ring. ride over the ridge. It looks wonderful. There. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, traffic, Seneca 35727, right crosswind, runway 17, full stop, taxi. Okay.
Bucket traffic, Varney 661, right downwind, setting up short approach, runway 17, bucket traffic. Bucket traffic, Varney 661, right base, runway 17, bucket.
The field here is for Stellar Airpark is 1,179 feet. So we want to descend down to 2,200. I think that'll sound great. 2,200. Vertical speed. 300 feet per minute.
Okay, traffic, Seneca 35727, right downwind 17, okay.
I am 14 miles west of Stella right now. Stellar. Yeah. That does look nice, doesn't it? That looks amazing, doesn't it? I love how stable that camera is too. Yep, that looks amazing. Look at that. Hey, everybody! The power adjustment again, as we're descending. Stellar Airpark, Cardinal 1841 Quebec is 10 miles to the west, inbound. Stellar Airpark. Traffic.
Okay, traffic, Seneca 357.
Traffic here, station 40, mail clear, 17, start. Okay, traffic, Varney 661, right crosswind for the right downwind 17, short approach to it, touch and go, Buckeye.
$4,800.
Okay, traffic, Seneca
Down to 2.2.
35727, final, runway 17, full stop, taxi back. Okay.
Okay, traffic, Varney 661, right downwind for the short approach, touch and go, Buckeye.
Increase the speed of going down. We'll do a left base in the runway. We will do a left base in the runway 35 into Stellar Airpark. Power back just a little bit. Or a lot. I gotta get that airspeed down. Right now we're almost 150 miles an hour. And I like to descend when we're getting to this point where we start bringing down the gear and all that jazz. I want to be all in front of the airplane here. I don't like to be behind the airplane. A little bit of slowdown of power, a little bit of slowdown of RPM. We'll have a lot less thrust that way. Yeah. 3,800 going to 2.2 or 2,200. And remember, all these altitudes, these are all these are all altitudes above sea level. They're not above ground. This airplane has no idea how high we are. It just has a clue on about the sea level. That's all it is. So I got to use charts and maps and whatnot to figure out where things are. Like this airplane field is 1,179 feet above sea level. That power down a little bit more. I'm going to bring down some flaps. Some people like to bring the gear down first. The flaps have a higher speed. I can extend it. And so I use power first, then I bring flaps in, then I bring the gear down, and then I add some more flaps. That's how my landing ritual is. And I'm using a checklist for that purpose. So for landing, seat belts and backs are fully selected. Fuel selectors on both. Airspeed is below 140, which it is now. Okay. Waiting on the gear here in just a little bit. We'll putting on a gear here in about a second. Actually, right now we're below that certain point. One more power adjustment here. We're bringing down the gear. So gear's coming down. What that noise is that we're below a certain power setting. As you can notice, I put my finger on the gear here and I wait until the gear light turns on. Okay. If you notice, the noise turned off. The gear is down. The noise turns off and the light turns on. Green light, gear is down. Okay. Mixture in. Gonna bring the power back just a little bit more. Okay, I got 10 degrees of flaps in. Airspeed for our landing is between 69 and 81. I like my airspeed between 65 knots, or roughly about 70 miles an hour. I'm going to turn off the autopilot, and we're going to turn. Stellar Airpark, Cardinal 184 Quebec, final for runway 35. Stellar Airpark. I went past it a little bit because I wanted to see what the rest of the side was. That was on
one left crosswind departing to the east. Final cars called Buckeye.
And of course, let's just be honest, I couldn't see it, so there's that. Gears down, gears down, gears down. That's more flat, not yet. Flaps.
500. Short final runway 35.
There we go. Gears down. Nice little squeaker there. That's coming up. So in theory, there's fuel here. I don't know where it is, but in theory, there's fuel here. It's not on this side, so we're going to go on the taxiway here. That might be over on the right. Over there, on the left. Maybe.
Approaching runway 1735.
Stellar traffic, Cardinal 184 Quebec, crossing runway 1735, midfield.
In theory, there's supposed to be fuel here.
Approaching runway 1735. Entered runway 1735.
There we go. Getting fuel. Well, that's it, my friends. We're going to leave the airplane right here. We're going to get some fuel, and that's it. Thanks for riding along. Like I said, click that subscribe button down in the bottom. That would be very helpful. And like I said, add some comments. That would be helpful. Okay, bye. This is the captain speaking. Have a great day.